Okay, everybody, here is the review. It's kind of long, but that's okay. It's thorough, and I think that's what counts. Okay, so here we go. Number one, midpoint formula. Okay, so I just went my x2 plus my x1 divided by 2, my y2 plus y1 divided by 2, and I end up with 3 halves, or 1.5, 1.5. Okay? Distance formula, length. Here's our formula. I plugged in my x2 minus my x1 quantity squared, and then I plugged in my, here's my points there. I plugged in my y2 minus my y1 quantity squared, and then I just simplified 9 squared plus negative 7 squared. 81 plus 49 is 130. Answer is about 11.4. Okay? I'm going kind of fast, so that's okay, because you can pause it. Number 5, I graph by the intercepts. So if I cover up the y, x is 8. If I cover up the x is 4. I like to do it by intercepts. It's easier. So I graphed my x-intercept and y-intercept and drew a triangle. Every triangle is 1/2 base times height. So 1/2, 8 times 4, which is going to be 32 divided by 2 is 16 units squared. Number 3, to find the solution, I need to do the elimination method. So I multiply the first one by 2 to get negative 10, the second one by 5 to get negative 10, or positive 10. When I cancel, multiply it all the way through, change the equations. I add through down, I get negative 16y equals 16. Divide by negative 16, I get y equals 1. So then, negative 1. So then I plugged it back into this equation. So I plugged my negative 1 right there. So I have negative 5x times 12 times a negative 1 equals 8. That's a negative 12. Plus 12 gives me 20. Divide by negative 5 and I get negative 4. So my point of solution is xy, negative 4, negative 1. Okay. Number 4, I did by graphing. It's just not too hard by graphing. Did a lot of by graphing. So I graphed the point AB. I found the slope of AB. Turns out it's about down 5 over 3. But I need the perpendicular slope, so I changed the perpendicular slope into positive 3 over 5. I need the midpoint, which is here at negative 1, 1. And then, because it's got to go through this. So I was able to draw it. I know my slope is up 3 over 5. The thing I don't know is what is that y-intercept. So I used my equation, my y minus y1 equals my m times my x minus x1, plugged in my midpoint, 1 and negative 1, and I distributed, so I got a 3/5 x, that's a plus 3/5, added 1, and I get y equals 3/5 x plus 1 and 3/5. That's the equation of this line. It's a perpendicular bisector, okay? 5 is just going through imaginary numbers. Okay, I'll show you what I got on 5. Square root of 81 is 9i. Negative 4 is a whole number. And then square root of negative 4 is a 2i. Multiply, I get a negative 8i. 9i minus 8i is a positive 1i, okay? On 6, I FOILed it. 10, I get a minus 4i, positive 20i, and then I get a minus 8i squared. I squared is negative 1, we've got to remember that. And then that's a positive 8, which I add to the 10 to 18. So I get 18 plus, combine those to 16i. 7, I need a multiple of 4 because I to the 4th is 1. So I made I to the 20th times I to the 3rd. I to the 20th is a bunch of 1s. I to the negative 3 is a negative I. I multiply those two and I get a negative 1i, okay? 8, the rule is you can't have an I in the denominator, so I multiply by I over I. I get a 5i over 2 times I squared, but I squared is negative 1. We know that. We learned that. And so then if that becomes a negative 2, I get negative 5/2 I, okay? 9, I got to rationalize it. So what I did is I multiplied by the conjugate. I multiplied top and bottom by 3 plus 5i. And then I FOILed the top. Check my work. FOILed the bottom or the numerator. You can check my work. I combined i's. Canceled i's. Any I squared was a negative 1. That's a negative 10 with a 12. That's a positive 25 with a 9 makes it 34. I rewrote it as 2 different parts because you have to have a real 2 34ths plus 26 34ths, which I probably could have reduced 1/17 plus 13/17 I. That's probably a better answer. Okay. Kind of going fast, but it's okay. You can pause. Okay. Number 10, complete the square, brought over the 12, subtracted it. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. I added 9 to both sides. That factors into an x minus 3, x minus 3. That becomes a negative 3. X minus 3 quantity squared, because I can rewrite it as quantity squared. Solving it, square root, square root. Okay, so I took the square root of both sides, square root of both sides. And I get plus minus square root of 3, but I'm going to have an I, because it's a negative I. So plus minus square root of 3i, I added 3, and I get 3 plus minus square root of 3i. Okay? Number 11, senior trip, or senior prom or whatever, $75 per couple. We have to rent the gym for $500. That's my income. My domain is 0 to 200, because it says in the problem that we can hold up to 200 couples, okay? So my domain is 0 to 200. My range is negative 500, because that's the worst I can do. And then I plugged in 200 and found out that we can make as much as 14,500. So my least up to my greatest amount of money we can make. Break even, I just set it equal to 0 and solved. I need at least 7 couples to break even, okay? 12, f of negative 6 means just plug in negative 6, okay? And I get a negative 64. F of 0, I set it equal to 0. And I know I can solve, brought over the 100, square root, I get plus or minus 10. 14, what I noticed about 14 is I can rewrite it as one big square root, and then I can reduce it by 12. So then I get, if I reduce it, I get negative 4 over square root of 3. That's just a 2i. Can't have a square root in the bottom, so I rationalized it. Square root of 3, square root of 3, so I get 2 square root of 3 over the square root of 9, which is 3, okay? Again, if I get going too fast, pause the video or come ask me for questions, okay? Number 15, which is on the back. 15, 14, oh man, my numbering's off. Is it really off that badly? 11, 12. No, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm on the back. 13, okay. Same as the others. I get a 9i. I get a 3i. I multiply those to get 24i. I subtract and get a negative 15i. Gosh, I just talked about 14. Oh well, anyway. 16, I got to rationalize. Where's it? 16. Where's 15? No, 15, I got a foil. 15, sorry about that. I'm a little confused. It's all good. I foil, and I get a 6. 21i minus 10i minus 35i squared. I squared makes a negative 1. That makes a positive 35 with the 6, makes a 41 plus 11i, okay? 6, I rationalize it by multiplying by 4 minus 5i, top and bottom. So the numerator, if I multiply it out, 28 minus 35i. And if I FOIL this, I get a 16 minus 20i plus a 20i, oops, minus 25i squared, because I times I. That's a negative 1, right? Which makes a positive 25. 16 plus 25 is a 41. I'm supposed to write this as 2 parts, real plus imaginary, okay? 17, it's weird because it's really a negative exponent, so it's 1 over I to the 35. I need I to the 4th, remember, I need I to the 4th is 1. So at I32, I3, that's a whole bunch of 1s. I to the 3rd is negative 1i. Okay, so then I'm not supposed to have I in the denominator, so I multiply by I over I. I get negative 1i over I squared. I squared is negative 1, so I just get I. Oops, sorry, you can't see it. There it is. Again, if you have questions, going kind of fast, you can ask me, okay? 17 on to 18. Okay, it factors. So I bring everything over, and I notice I can divide everything by 5. Makes it so much easier. So I divide everything by 5, and I get x squared minus 2x minus 8, which is negative 4, positive 2. Multiplies to make negative 8, adds to negative 2. Many equations, I get x equals 4, x equals negative 2. Okay, 19. On 19, I'm supposed to complete the square, so I brought over the 12. Okay. Half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Okay, add that to both sides. That'll factor into x minus 5, x minus 5, which is x minus 5 squared equals 13, right? Because I add those and I get 13. Quantity squared, so I square root. Okay, plus minus square root of 13. I add 5. Go with 5. So it's 5 plus minus square root of 13. Okay. 20 by the quadratic formula, so I brought 5x over. Here's my A, B, C for quadratic formula. A, B, C. So here's my quadratic formula minus B. negative 5, plus or minus 5, negative 5 squared, minus 4, times a, which is 2, times c, which is 6, all over 2 times 2, which is a, and then I simplified it down to the square root of negative 23, and that can't be done, so I'm going to have an I, so I'm going to have a 5 fourths plus or minus the square root of 3i over 4, okay? 21, it says C graph. All right. Here's the one. Okay, so the y-intercept's at negative 15. I know that. Boom, that helps. The x-intercepts, I factored it, and it does factor, set equals 0 factor. Here's my x-intercepts after I factor it. I can graph those. Line of symmetry is negative b over 2a, so I did my negative 7 over 2 times 2, which is negative 1.75. And then to get the corresponding y value, plugged it in to get my corresponding y value, and I got it to be a negative 21.125. So there's my vertex. I put all the points on the graph, y-intercept, x-intercepts, vertex, and there's my graph, okay? And then finally, on 22, you have to do with calculator and the stat button, okay? So you can find that. There it is. So I did my scatter plot, age and time, and I went by 5s, and it looks like it could be a parabola. So I put it all into my calculator under statistics, and I hit my quadratic button, and I wound up with these values here. I wonder if I still have it on my calculator. Let's see if I do or not. Oh, I don't even know where my calculator is anymore. Kids borrow things, and that's that. Oh well. Anyway, let's see. It might be here. You never know. Might still be in there. Let's see, stat. Nope, it's not there. Well, anyway, I don't know where it is. Calculators get borrowed, and it's gone. So anyway, I did use the stat button. These are the answers I got. To find the maximum, I do my negative b over 2a. So I got my negative 3.4 over 2 times a. Turns about 28.3 years old would be the fastest. I plugged it in, it's about 25.5, which is a little deceptive because according to my chart, the fastest could be at 25 anyway, okay? So there it is. If you have any specific questions, come see me and ask, okay? All right, I am done.